Today on the Royal Flush, I am at Chad's home, his house, and we're going to define some fragrance terms, some adjectives, to the best of our ability. So let's do this, Chad.
Let's do it.
Welcome to J-ROYL, everyone. My name is James. This is the Royal Flush, where it's fragrance related and there's a theme of 5 because there's 5 cards in Royal Flush.
Okay.
Conveniently.
Never would have put those two together, actually.
And no one will, which is why I had to explain it.
Okay.
But recently, one of my subscribers, they asked me,
what the heck do you guys mean by some of these terms?
it's true, we do use some off words to describe fragrances because it is such a subjective thing. You have to be as creative as possible in your description. So we have 5 terms that we've picked that we're going to go through and explain what we mean when we say them. These definitions aren't necessarily steadfast, they're not in Webster's in regards to fragrances, so there is some room for interpretation as to what they are defined as. The first one being earthy.
Okay.
When a fragrance is earthy, what does that mean? Does that mean it came from Earth? Does it mean it's as heavy as the planet?
For me, I think it just has that earthy quality, like nature. Sometimes it could be dirty.
Yeah.
But not animalistic, but like roots, trees, soil, vetiver, chuli. I do find that some things that you can find out in the bush, that's kind of earthy to me.
Earthy fragrances tend to smell like something that would maybe come from the earth. I feel that earthy fragrances, while they can be dry, they can also have a damp-like quality to them as well.
Yes.
So a lot of the creative green fragrances can tend to be pretty earthy. Some examples, I feel Bat by Zoologist is extremely earthy.
I think that would be probably the best example.
The best example, because it actually does have a soil note.
And it's so authentic.
Alright, so that is what we mean by earthy. Hope that helps. Now, one that you mentioned earlier that I kind of want to add in last minute is animalistic. When we say a fragrance is animalistic, do we mean that it makes you feel real fierce, like a tiger, or what?
Generally, they're a little bit more challenging, a little bit more darker. Animalistic is pretty much that. It's very animal-like. It can be musky, I find, in some ways.
The 2 big animalistic notes, we got civet, castoreum. Also, I would add leather.
Okay.
You know, a more accessible animalistic note. When we say animalistic, we usually mean there's notes that either replicate or actually contain stuff that we find in animals. This will often portray a pretty dirty, rough type of feel.
A very challenging scent.
These animalistic fragrances back in the day used to use real musk, real deer musk, and that's when you have an authentic animalistic fragrance.
Yeah.
But now they're doing a very good job replicating these scents. So that's animalistic. The next term we want to define is opulent. What does an opulent fragrance smell like?
Rich, lavish, something regal.
Okay, now what do all those mean?
Money, money, money. Money.
It's a strange word to define because there's nothing related to smell when you think of opulence.
Okay.
But definitely there is an air of luxury with an opulent fragrance. And normally, opulence and that level of regality does have a bit of that out there sort of vibe. Kings aren't modest. You know, they got gold everywhere. So an opulent fragrance will make its presence known for sure. I guess because it is rich, both in its scent profile and its cost normally, it will have higher quality ingredients, which means the blend should be better.
And they do smell a little bit more natural at the same time.
So by natural you mean?
Better, when you were saying the better ingredients.
Okay, so opulent, I mean, take that definition or leave it. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if something's opulent, high quality, natural, how would you define a synthetic fragrance, which is our next one?
Chemically, you can smell the alcohol.
Yeah.
You can smell how cheap it smells. Some cheap fragrances smell really good. Some of them you can really smell that it is cheap.
You know, this is an interesting one for me because I try to differentiate between synthetic versus cheap smelling.
Okay.
I guess most people's definition of a synthetic fragrance is that heavy alcohol opening, which kind of insinuates that there wasn't really a lot of thought being put into the blend. But that being said, there are a lot of entirely synthetic notes that smell pretty cool, like with, you know, iso-E super and aldehydes and, you know, even ambroxan. These are all fragrance notes that technically are synthetic, but a lot of them are in really nice smelling fragrances.
Okay.
And they dominate the designer market, in fact. Another one that I want to mention is Mont Blanc's Individual. I'll call Individual synthetic, but I mean it in a good way. Compared to Original Santal, which is the niche version, the unoriginal Santal technically is more rich. Maybe you can say it's more opulent, but because Mont Blanc Individual is synthetic, it has this laundry-like accord to it where it smells like fresh laundry, which is synthetic, the detergent is synthetic, but it's also clean. So in my mind, Mont Blanc Individual obviously is the better value, but I think it's also a little more versatile because it has that synthetic quality that makes it more familiar to the average nose.
Okay.
And that segues into my last one, which is accessible. I would argue that Mont Blanc Individual is an accessible fragrance. What do you think when you hear me say a fragrance is accessible?
Easy to get. Sometimes fragrances are easier to get online than it is at the actual mall.
Accessible, again, similar to synthetic, I think to me it has different meanings. They do relate for sure. Accessible physically, so obviously if it's easy to get, but also accessible scent-wise. I feel if a fragrance is accessible, it means that more people understand the fragrance in regards to how easy it is to wear.
So what you just said was totally different from what I was thinking, but it's a different way of looking at it though.
But again, I think it's completely related. I think the fact that a fragrance is accessible in the market, you can get it easier, also largely because of the fact that it's accessible scent-wise. Okay. Because if more people like it, more people are going to want to buy it, which means more suppliers are going to want to carry it.
More mass appealing.
More mass appealing, yeah. So I know when I use the word accessible in my videos, and I do it quite often, I mean in the sense that it's just a fragrance that more people will tolerate. It's easy to get, both mentally and scent-wise, but also you can get it at most retailers or online, like Chad was saying.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it for this little segment, guys. Chad, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for
your wisdom is always
Thank you very much for having me.
And if there are any other adjectives or any other fragrance hit words that that we reviewers seem to like to use, please let us know in the comment section below, and we should probably do a follow-up. There's a ton of weird words that we like to use.
True. Very true.
All of our links to the Facebook group, Snapchat, and Instagram are down below, as are all of Chad's details. Please check out his channel, A Gentleman's Journey.
Please do.
Chad is one of the OGs in this fragrance community, so...
I'm one of the older guys in the community. Still doing it too.
Not old, but seasoned. And of course, if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe to me, and then subscribe to Chad if you haven't already. And like this video. That was the Royal Flush, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Peace.
You know how you said OG? I think you said OG?
Yeah.
Old Grump.
Old Grump.
Because I apparently have a grumpy personality from what some of my friends say anyway, so it's all good.